Right, cool. So, first of all, Jamie, 10 easy wins. Round of applause, please, everyone.
Right, hello, good evening. I'm Jamie. You've read everything on the website. Several hundred years experience, system administration, a bit of this, that. Louder, okay.
Yeah.
All through my professional life, last 25 years, I've been doing system administration and always looking for opportunities to automate things, always looking for opportunities to get stuck in with programming side and help them out and things like that. And I never really got that boff thing, like being awkward about operations and that. I just want to help people out and all that kind of thing. So when this DevOps thing came along, I thought, well, that's what I do anyway. So that isn't strictly true, but it's certainly I can bring my experience to it, and we can get somewhere. So last time I was here, I was having a few chats with people, and it's clear that although everyone knows about a lot of the individual practices that we do for the DevOps discipline, not everyone has heard of everything, and you hear about something from another person, you think about it a different way, and perhaps you'd think, how can I use it? So we all want to get into this DevOps, even if you're not in some kind of startup. If you're in a big company with lots of legacy stuff, then you want to get the good effects of it. You want the quicker time to market and development cycles. You want better resilience for your operational network, and you want to use agile techniques for your development, and DevOps fits in with that. But if you've got legacy systems, then it's difficult to change them because they're more complicated than something that's been built from the ground up. Often the resilience is poor because it's an old system and there'll be single points of failure all over the place. And quite often there'll be resistance to using Agile effectively. There'll be things like people saying, oh, I'm going on a training course on Prince2 and Agile. And you're thinking, well, no, I don't think you are. And so there's that kind of thing. So what can you do to move where you are at the moment in the legacy environment to some better place where you're a bit nearer this kind of idea of rapid deployment and resilient systems? So that's what I'm interested in talking about today. So the best way to improve on stuff is with little incremental increases. If you're within an organisation that isn't fully sold on the idea of on the DevOps ideas of rapid deployment and using agile techniques and things like that, if you can improve one little thing, then you go in the right direction, then you've improved. And if you can keep doing that, then quite quickly actually you'll find that there is some kind of improvement in where you are. You'll find that when you come to, if you manage to implement tests, for instance, when you come to in a sort of global way, when you come to refactor something in an emergency, you think, oh well, I can just fix that. The test will show that it basically works, and we can push it further down the line than we would be able to before, because we can be sure that it's not going to break everything. So things like that, you can put those in and it will help you along the way. And this is a sort of well-known thing in bigger companies. They always have interest in this kind of idea where you have a cycle of continuous improvement. Everyone is into this nowadays, and if you can somehow plug your little improvements into that process, then you're more likely to get some kind of buy-in. So I've got 10 specific little tips. So this is my first one. So, like I say, when I talk to people here, a lot of you are already doing this stuff, so feel free to zone out if you want. But so automated tests on commit. So if you've got code and you go from it being written to it being in your stuff that's ready, then at that point you want to do a sort of some testing there, and you can do that automatically because there's a particular step you get to in your process. So any sort of testing at that point is, however basic, is good. And an example of this is static checking. So if you're not familiar with static checking, because I'm just saying, this is the basic stuff, and there's a lot of people that haven't heard of this because they've come from a slightly different angle. If you haven't heard this static checking, it's checking that's on a program that isn't running. So it'll be just looking at the structure of the program. There's many different types of stuff. If you want to look up a particular system that you're using, you just Google for things, lint your program, whatever it is you're using, it'll come up with something. Lint is an old program that used to be run on C systems, and it's often used as a thing that goes with, so it'd be lint puppet or lint whatever. So that's one thing you can do. Another sort of basic test you can do is does it compile? So if you use the built-in the blast from the past, if you use the built-in Perl thing for making packages, it comes up with a stub test, and what that does is it loads the module, and it, like a use or an import or an include, it loads up the module and just say, will it load up as the library thing that I've written, and that is the test. And you can do that in this is it in RSpec Puppet. It's that kind of thing. So it just says, I've written a class called IOP Tomcat, and will it compile with all dependencies? And that will just load that up. So I've got that as a boilerplate item for all the classes that we've got, and it runs them every time we do a commit, just to check that nothing's really basically broken. When I first looked at the Puppet stuff we had, a contractor had done it for us, and there were like lots of classes. I think I've reduced it now to about 30. None of them had any tests, so I added this to all the modules, and then when I change things now, I'll add more bits to these basic tests. I'll say it should do something else down at the bottom there, and then that makes it gets you somewhere with your testing, and then you can expand it as you go along. So the next really basic thing is Git. So if you're not using Git and you are trying to write software and manage it, then you should be, because it's got all kinds of advantages if you're trying to do this kind of work. That sort of weird looking racetrack diagram is showing a Git branching model. So you probably make out it's you have a kind of a master track with tags on it, and then you've got development track, and then you've got feature branches off that, and they all go off, and then you can split off the work you're doing for a particular feature, check it works, and then merge it into the development. Then you do more testing on the development thing, and eventually it goes back to the master, and it supports your workflow. And Git is far better at that branching and merging than many other tools. There's a great YouTube thing with Linus Torvalds talking about how Git is better than everything else, and if you want more inside track on that sort of thing, his talk is far better than I could put it. But yeah, so next thing, making packages. So where I am at the moment, we are using Puppet for a lot of the configuration stuff. Where I was before, we didn't have Puppet, but we had facilities for making Debian packages. And they have you can put little scripts in them. They'll configure your machine. You can do repeatable deploys. You can do all the kinds of things that you need to do to support rapid deployment, like building test environments easily. It's kind of a basic thing that will move you down the road. There's a tool you can get called FPM, which makes it really easy to build packages. You just have a directory with all the stuff in it, and you do FPM and make me a package, and then it just makes it. There's no messing about. With Debian, the learning curve on trying to get the package to actually build properly, once you get past the hello world kind of stage, is a bit interesting. They've got lots of little programs called DH underscore something or other, and but it works great. But FPM is much easier for just getting there in the first place. Just talked about that. That's the things like the Debian stuff. And then you might also want to have your own package repository. So with the Red Hat world, they've got things where you can add groups of RPMs that are held in servers out there. I forget what the system is called for adding a set of RPMs, but that's sort of well understood. But if you want your own RPM repository, that's quite easy to do as well. You just basically need something a bit like a web server, and then you tell it where it is in the configuration on the machine, and then it will load up packages that you've put on there. So you can make your own version of Tomcat with a lot of the configuration you're going to use, and install it straight on your server from a RPM install, or your own version of Apache or Nginx, or any of these tools that you want to start off with a package, but you think, oh well, I always want it to have loads of sockets or something. You can just reconfigure it, make a package, put it in your own repository, and then you're away. We've also used it